Belated happy birthday, Togbe. May God bless and keep you always, and may you stay forever young. Thank you for that warm note of welcome. He joins us today as a man of great administrative ability and dexterity. He is the chairman of the board of the World Trade Centers Association. Make welcome, Mr. John Drew.
Well, first of all, I have to thank His Royal Highness Togbe Alfredi XIV for arranging this meeting and volunteering to, in fact, bring it all together. But I also have to tell you, I want to thank him for just the words he just shared with us, because honestly, this is how we were inspired to come to Accra, to Ghana. The opportunities that he's talking about, the knowledge that many of our members have that can be shared here, I think is really what we hope to see accomplished in the next couple of days. And Togbe and his team have been really remarkable to work with. They've worked with our headquarters team in New York, put together this program. And we also, I have to point out, asked him to do something that wasn't originally in his application to take on this General Assembly a few years back. We said we would like to have this be a sub-Saharan Africa meeting as much as possible. We'd like to have this be an African meeting as much as possible. And we'd like to use the doorway through Ghana to come to Africa and take advantage of your World Trade Center. And so we doubled and tripled up the request that we put on his shoulders and his team's shoulders. And he took that challenge, much like the oyster, and ran forward with it. And I must say, quite frankly, the participation of the other countries that are here as part of this program is a reflection of that work and effort that the team, Togbe in particular, has put into this event. I want to welcome the Vice President, since he was just in Boston at the marathon, as well as at Harvard University speaking. I want to welcome His Excellency the Commissioners, and also His Excellency the Secretary General, Mini, for coming and spending time racing back from South Africa, as you did yesterday, to be here. I mean, these are not easy things to basically pull together, and I must say your commitment to our program is highly, highly valued. So thank you very much, Mr. Vice President, and thank you also, Dr. Mini. I think many of the notes I was going to sort of express and talk about, Togbe's already covered. So I want to come at this thing from a different angle. I want to talk about the World Trade Center Association and why we value ourselves and why we feel that we can be, hopefully, of great value to Ghana and to the rest of Africa. We have members, 14 members already in Africa. And it's been an area that we haven't come back to in a number of years. And we should have, but we didn't. We've been in Southeast Asia, we've been in China, we've been in Japan, we've been in the States, we've been in Mexico, we've been in Latin America for many of our General Assemblies. We've been only in Africa and in Algeria past like 6-7 years ago. And I must say that what's been happening in Africa, the changes in the past 5 years, the growth of this, the integration of the economies, and the growth that's taking place, and then the demographics that we're well aware of, which is in a few more years, I think it's 20 more years, 1 out of every 4 people will be living here in Africa. The opportunities are here, but I must say also, the opportunities are opportunities that we want to, in fact, bring value to. We want to be partnering with the World Trade Centers Association and our business members in particular with the African business community, so that together that we can grow wealth, we can grow prosperity, and hopefully through all of that there'll be more peace, there'll be more harmony, there'll be more, in fact, collegial efforts taking place. I think that's really the message of the World Trade Center, which is that we are a network of fellows, believers, colleagues. We're a network that has at its very core recognizes the importance of working together, the importance of listening to one another, and the importance of learning from one another. So I think that's really the background that we bring forward here. And the opportunity of growth is obvious. I mean, it's obvious what's going to be happening here. And I think if we can make that growth move a little bit sooner, a little faster, if we can grow prosperity quicker because of our efforts or our business members' efforts, that is a major accomplishment, and that's something that we will be very proud of. And I can assure you, Mr. Vice President, that we will be committed to doing that through the Accra World Trade Center and through your doorway to all the rest of Africa. So this is a very, very important program. The participation of the other countries, of Namibia and the rest, is recognizable as intangible for us because, honestly, we would like to grow. And we'd like to grow through the efforts of working directly with those government authorities and with that leadership. I recognize how almost straightforward and simple this is in certain ways. We arrived at the airport development director saw us waiting, brought us into her office, talked to us about the work that was going on at the airport, the plans for the airport. And I said, "Are you coming to our meeting?" She says, "Oh yes, I'm coming. I'll be there on Monday, and I'll have some people there in the rest couple of days." It was so good to hear the fact that that response was already here. People were waiting for their chance to meet with us. And I hope from the delegates' point of view, we put as much time and effort into our meetings with them as they have put into planning their meetings with us. We have one of the largest meetings that we've had in many years, and maybe the largest that we've ever had, taking place here. Between our delegates, the business team, the trade groups that have accompanied our delegations, between the local businesses, we're over 356 attendees. That is a record for us, and again, that I think reflects our enthusiasm and hopefully the enthusiasm of the businesses here in meeting with us. So we have grounds to do extremely well here. We have an opportunity to do extremely well for everyone. In addition to that, we are pushing very, very hard to make sure our businesses that are attending. We have delegations from Namibia. We have delegations from Savannah, Georgia, from the Netherlands, and also from a very large delegation from Denver, Colorado. It's a diverse business background. It goes from mining to basically United Airlines and Delta Airlines and aircraft and basically flights. All of that is involved in this program. So there's expertise that we're bringing with us through our members and through those business delegations. There is a strong commitment on behalf of my board and our membership to be as productive and cooperative as we can be. There's also at the base of all this a real desire to do business in Africa and do business in the most constructive and appropriate way possible. So thinking about that from my point of view and from the board's point of view, we have stressed the business-to-business relationships. We have stressed the fact that the people here that we bring are going to have the opportunity to meet with at least 3 companies. Hopefully there's a match that's going to be made there. We're also expecting that we'll have the names of everyone who participates. We'll follow up. So we'll follow up from Ghana, and we'll follow up from the World Trade Center headquarters. So we won't lose these first few days of relationships. We'll try to build those relationships and find other matches that we can make to build upon the time and efforts that have been put here so far in the next few days. So this is the beginning of a number of steps. It's the beginning of a series of relationships. And I hope that, as of the next couple of days or maybe next year, we're going to be able to recite the successes that we've had both here with the local businesses and with our businesses that we brought with us from back home, wherever that might be, and see that growth, and we can talk about that growth. On the basis of that growth, I think we'll encourage other people to come. And hearing what we just heard, maybe we'll become addicted, and we'll be here a lot, and we can stay even longer. There's much more to see, and there's much more to do, and there's many more places to go. There's a rich history here that, quite frankly, I'm very excited about being part of. I've learned so much in just a couple of days from a man in the botanical gardens about where all of medicine seem to come from, which is, I think, out of trees in Ghana, but I've learned all of that. So I must say, I'm expecting that we will do very, very well. I'm expecting that we'll hold up our half of the bargain, and so that the teams that have worked so hard here, and the government that's worked so hard to support us here, and the other governments that are participating here, representing other parts of Africa, will feel that, quite frankly, the time and effort in working with this association has been well worth it. I think my hope is that we will spend much more time, grow our membership here in Africa, have many more World Trade Centers, have our strong network of people who can help build that local business infrastructure, who can help build the new roads, who can help, in fact, in many ways with new technology, or with bringing some expertise on technology that's here so it can be expanded. We're committed to that business growth. We're committed to our friendship. We're committed to, quite frankly, our members. And as a result of all of that, we're very committed to this General Assembly, to this country, to our delegates from other parts of Africa. The World Trade Center is here and plans to grow here and do more with you. And so on behalf of my board, on behalf of our members, thank you very much for welcoming us. It's so kind of you, and we look forward to really a couple of very prosperous days for all of us. Please, thank everyone who's worked so hard, and I really want to thank all of you for taking time out of your very busy schedules to participate in this program. It means a great deal to us, but I think you'll feel the rewards very soon. So again, Toby, thank you very much for organizing this. My friends and the delegates from the World Trade Center, thank you for participating and traveling here. And I really must say, I look forward to more of this work here in Africa. I also have to call out the African Exim Bank, which is underwriting a good deal of this program. Thank you very much. They have a workroom already set up. They can talk about financing projects. They're ready to work the next couple of days here. So I mean, you look at things like that. There's things that we can take advantage of immediately. So again, thank you very much for all of your interest, for your travel, for your commitment coming here. Thank you very much for hosting this and doing such a very good job to prepare this meeting. So thank you all on behalf of the World Trade Center.
We're grateful to you, Mr. John Drew, for those very warm statements of assurances and commitments. We thank you for your leadership and your example too. This morning we want to explore the AFCFTA, the game changer as we've come to know it, with the creation of an amalgamated market of more than 1.3 billion people with free movement of goods, services, people, and opportunities. The question we want to ask is, how can we make the most of this agreement by leveraging trade and direct investment to boost growth and reduce poverty as we strive towards African economic integration and enhanced global presence? The answers are twofold. The first is in a short video, and thereafter the Secretary General of the AFCFTA will provide answers. Please lend your attention to the screen.
The Committee of Foreign Ministers, officials and experts should be empowered to establish 1. A commission to frame a constitution for the Union Government of African States. 2. A commission to work out a continent-wide plan for the United or Common Economic and Industrial Program for Africa. 2. A commission to work out a continent-wide plan for the United or Common Economic and Industrial Program for Africa. This plan should include for setting up a common market for Africa, an African currency, African monetary zone, an African central bank, a continental communication system.
It is important to acknowledge that the desire to establish a common market on the African continent in the goal to attain economic integration had been expressed by our forebears who laid the foundation for the face of trade today. The launch of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, marks an important milestone in Africa's long history of regional integration, as it is the largest free trade area since the formation of the World Trade Organization, WTO. A key objective of the AFCFTA is to create a single Pan-African market for goods and services by eliminating trade barriers and boost intra-Africa trade while ensuring free movement of business persons and of capital. The AFCFTA was created to transform the lives of Africans, where for the very first time since the end of colonialism, we have an instrument to regulate trade among African countries. Africa has been marginalized from global trade for many, many years, with a participation of less than 3%. Yet, we export over 80% outside of our continent. The time has come to own our narrative. This is the only opportunity we have to lift millions and millions of Africans out of poverty. With the AFCFTA, we have succeeded in sending products from East Africa, North Africa, and Central Africa to West Africa at reduced tariffs.
Nous en sorte également que le marché africain soit le marché des Africains. Produire en Afrique, transformer en Afrique et consommer en Afrique. Produisons ce dont nous avons besoin et consommons ce que nous produisons au lieu d'importer.
The AFCFTA entered into force in 2019 and has achieved significant milestones. The AFCFTA currently has close to 50 state parties. The Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, PAPS, in collaboration with Afreximbank, has been rolled out with over 60 banks and 9 commercial banks joining the system so far. The platform is a cross-border financial market infrastructure enabling payment transactions across Africa. AFCFTA Adjustment Fund, in partnership with Afreximbank, has been established and aims at mitigating the negative impact of lost tariff revenue and other near-term effects of state parties in the implementation of the AFCFTA. The AFCFTA e-tariff book has been created and is available online to all. It is a web-based electronic tariff book containing updated schedules of tariff concessions aiming to facilitate the publication of information on rates of duty applied by AFCFTA state parties under their schedules of tariff concessions. The AFCFTA Rules of Origin Manual has been finalized and published. It covers the provisions governing the determination of the origin status of goods under the agreement. It enables economic actors ascertain the origin of the goods they will be trading across the continent. The AFCFTA Guided Trade was launched and initiated trade amongst 7 state parties with 96 goods with the support of the Secretariat. The objective of this initiative was to showcase that trading under the AFCFTA is possible and the necessary tools to enable that are available. The vision of our leaders 70 years ago is being brought to light in an Africa where women and young people can aspire to expand their horizons of opportunities beyond their borders. For the very first time, a legal framework will enable businesses to settle their disputes thanks to a dispute settlement body when trading with another country. The AFCFTA has opened Africa for investments while providing regulatory measures. This new era of trading is digitizing trade and promoting financial inclusion. It will take each and every African to make the AFCFTA work. We are creating one African market. The Africa we want is here. Let's accelerate the implementation of the AFCFTA.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Secretary General of the AFCFTA, His Excellency Wamkele Mene.
Thank you very much, Program Director Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Fourth Republic of Ghana, Dr. Bawumia, Honorable Minister of the Republic of Namibia, my sister and my comrade, the Chairman of the Board of the World Trade Centers, Your Royal Highness, honorable ministers that are here, the High Commissioners of South Africa and the Republic of Namibia, the Chairman of the Board, Mr. John Drew, business leaders that are here with us, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I came in yesterday. I came in yesterday because His Royal Highness said to me a few months ago, I would like you to come to speak at our event. Tomorrow I have to be in Zambia. But I came because of the importance of this event. Because I value his leadership. And of course, I want all of you to be home in my country, Ghana. I had prepared, Your Excellency, the Vice President, my colleagues prepared a text, a speech for me to read. But I'm going to depart from the speech. I'm not going to read it. Because you see, Your Royal Highness, you have provoked me. You provoked me in your opening remarks. So I'm not going to read the speech. I want to share with your delegates why the theme that you have chosen is so relevant. The economic integration of the African continent. And I'll make just two examples why the integration of this continent is so critical. The top five, in the top five lithium producing countries in the world are in Africa. So we are transitioning from combustion engines to electric vehicles. The countries that are going to be the drivers of the global auto sector are in Africa, this continent. Payments, global payment system. In 2019, this continent of Africa traded on SWIFT $19.5 billion in 2019 alone. $19.5 billion worth of transactions on SWIFT. Now, without geopolitical considerations, can you imagine what this continent can do for the world. Just these two examples. As a matter of fact, let me give you another example. In 2015, the African continent exported $6 billion worth of raw coffee, unprocessed. When that $6 billion worth of coffee enters the global market, the processing, the branding, the repackaging, it becomes a $100 billion industry from this continent, contributing to a $100 billion industry. And so clearly there's a deficit. Let me give you another example. India, similarly populated to the African continent. India produces 5 million units of vehicles a year. The African continent produces less than 1 million units of vehicles a year between South Africa and Morocco. That is a deficit on the face of it. But it's also an opportunity. It's an opportunity for you who are here for investment so that by the year 2035, 17% of the world's population that is in this continent, by the year 2035, can produce 5 million units of vehicles or more. Why am I talking about vehicles? Because of the industrial development factor. The industrial development factor that will propel our continent to actually contribute more than the current 3% of global GDP and the current 2% of global merchandise more. So I was asked yesterday on a flight, I was sitting next to a gentleman, he said, why do you think that Africa can do it? Why do you think that this continent has the capacity to be globally competitive? So I of course pondered because I take it as a matter of faith. I don't question. So I was taken aback because I take it as a matter of, it is self-evident in my view. But when you are interrogated about why Africa is potentially 20, 30 years from now going to be globally competitive, why is it a matter of faith? Well, it's a matter of faith for me because by the turn of this century, as we all know, by the turn of this century, the largest working force in the world will be here, in this continent. The largest population of working people in the world by the turn of the century, 1 in 4 people by the turn of the century will be here in Africa. And so even in the context of these geopolitical, geoeconomic configurations, I believe that the African continent is going to emerge. And so, Your Royal Highness, Your Excellency, the Vice President, I said I was provoked by this theme towards African economic integration. What are the tools It is not just a speech, a slogan that we make. We have taken concrete steps to make sure that actually we take the path towards economic integration. Payments, I mentioned as a first factor. 42 currencies. Macroeconomic divergence. If you are in Accra, you want to trade with somebody in Kenya, you have to use a third currency to trade. Well, we have introduced a digital payment system to enable trade to take place in local currency, so that as a Ghanaian, I don't have to use a third currency to trade with somebody in Kenya. I can get on my app and trade with somebody in Kenya seamlessly. Digital advancement. You can be in one part of the continent and you want to trade with somebody in another part of the continent. You can be in a village. You access an app. You can trade with another small medium enterprise in another part of the world, of the continent, using digital tools. So we are leapfrogging. I'm saying to you, I don't understand why people don't see where this continent is going. I was in Washington. I met with people whose names I will not mention, but they are there, high up. They say to me, Secretary General, why do you allow China to dominate your continent? I said to them, but China sees the future. China sees where this continent is going 50 years down the line. 1.3 billion people by the year 2050. The combined GDP of the African continent is going to be 16 trillion United States dollars. 16 trillion United States dollars, potentially the top 10 economies in the world. This continent. So I'm saying, I'm in Washington, we were there, African Leaders Summit, they're asking me why should we pay attention to Africa? So I don't understand why they don't understand where we are going. I said, His Royal Majesty provoked me. He provoked me. So you are here in my home country, in Accra, Ghana. I want to tell you, you ignore this continent at your own peril. You ignore this continent at your own peril. I wish to give you one more example, and then, Your Excellency Vice President, I will depart. One more example. We import over 70% of our grains are coming from a country in Europe to feed a continent of 1.3 billion people. We import these grains so that when they are fighting in that part of the world, our continent suffers inflationary pressures causing food insecurity. But go to Zimbabwe, go to Malawi, go to Zambia, you will find that in Zimbabwe, there is $200 million worth of grains per year, post-harvest grains per year that go to waste. So we are now working with the government of Zimbabwe to make sure that that post-harvest grains feeds Africa. That Zimbabwe in 4 or 5 years' time becomes a net food exporter to the rest of the continent. I'm saying, ignore this continent at your own peril. We are going to move. We are moving as a continent. The integration of this continent, you saw the clip, the integration of this continent is embedded. It is embedded by our founding mothers and fathers in May 1963 when they established the Organization of African Unity. Their objective was to make sure that this continent is self-sufficient. We learned the hard way. We learned the hard way. Global supply chains. In March 2020, they become disrupted. Our continent is at the back of the queue for vaccines acquisition. Back of the queue. At that time, only 6% of Africans were vaccinated at that time. There were countries that were imposing export restrictions on germ-killing products, on masks. The masks that we were all export restrictions. So this continent, we were on our knees. Guess what happened less than a year later? There were countries in Africa, there were businesses in Africa that were reconfiguring their business models to respond to the pandemic. There were countries in this continent who were producing the sanitizers. There was a country in 2020 that had only four ventilators at that time. Only 4 for the entire country. Then other countries in Africa actually started producing the oxygen masks, the cylinders that are required, and started exporting to other countries. So the integration of this continent is already advancing. The World Bank tells us that by the year 2035, where we implement the AFCFTA in a manner that aggressively addresses our challenges, by the year 2035, we will lift 100 million people out of poverty, abject poverty, moderate poverty. We will contribute up to $450 billion to Africa's combined GDP, and more importantly for me, we will close the gender salary gap, and we will be able to produce and establish an alternative supply chain so that when there's another pandemic, our continent is able to stand up straight on our own, being led by small, medium enterprises that are owned by women. We will be able to say we don't need one person to donate masks to us because we are going to be self-sufficient. So you have chosen Ghana, Accra, Africa, for this particular theme and this session, a very, very appropriate continent and country. Consider this. 1980, when China was towards the bottom end of the development index, and China was able to mobilize smallholder farmers who contributed to that country's economic transformation, lifting 700 million people out of poverty in less than a generation. I believe it is going to happen here, in this continent. It's going to happen in this continent. So this theme is a starting point. The economic integration is a starting point of an Africa that is rising. And you are going to be able to say, I was there when that continent started rising. I was there, I witnessed it. I was told by a man that he said, well, you know, young men, I admire your youthful naivety. It shall never happen, he told me. But I believe it's going to happen. Vice President, Your Royal Highness, I want to thank you very much. I'm going to take my leave now to be with my wife for a few hours before I travel. I want to wish you, all of you, very, very good deliberations. Thank you very much.
His Excellency Wampele Mene, Secretary General of the AFCFTA, ladies and gentlemen. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Butcher's Dance from the north of Ghana. Let's appreciate them with a round of applause. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Traditional appellations to say thank you, the Secretary General of the AFCFTA. Once more, a round of applause. Thank you. Here's to say thank you, Your Excellency, the Secretary General, for those warm words, for your courage and your determination. Know that the gods, ancestors, and the good people of Africa are solidly behind you. The second words of appellations are for our fearless leader, the Vice President of our Republic, who has shown us in word and in deed that both the optimist and the pessimist come together in a very beautiful fashion to create nations. Although the pessimist may build the parachute, the optimist is eternally grateful for the knowledge and the courage to build the whole aeroplane. And that's what he summed up in those beautiful appellations. Please, a round of applause for him. It is now my distinct honor to welcome the gift of the occasion, the Vice President of the Republic, to deliver the keynote and declare the summit officially open. His Excellency, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia.
Thank you very much. Please have a seat. Thank you. Sir John Drew, Chairman of the World Trade Centers Association, Your Royal Majesty, Togbe Afede XIV, Executive Chairman, World Trade Center, Accra, Your Excellency Wamkele Mene, Secretary General of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, Honorable Lucia Limpumbu, Minister of Industrialization and Trade of Namibia, South African High Commissioner to Ghana, Her Excellency Grace Mason, and the Namibian High Commissioner to Ghana, Her Excellency Selma Shipala Musavi, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me to be the special guest of honor at the 53rd General Assembly of the World Trade Centers Association, and for allowing me to give the keynote address. I'm incredibly honored because this is the first time the General Assembly is being held in sub-Saharan Africa, and we do not take this honor lightly. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome all of you to our beautiful country, which has been a pace setter in Africa for many decades. Ghana was the first country in sub-Saharan Africa to attain independence, and thus gave hope and inspiration to other African countries to achieve independent statehood. Ghana has continued to lead Africa to a bright and prosperous future of democracy, freedom of speech, rule of law, peace, and security. Consistent with our leadership role in Africa, Ghana hosts the Secretariat of the African Continental Free Trade Area, which, as you have heard, is a monumental step towards finally realizing the African dream of prosperity for our people. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, if you are keen to learn about the opportunities presented by the AFCFTA, you have come to the right place, because the AFCFTA is in this country. Its secretariat is here, and if it were a country, Ghana would be its capital. So welcome to Ghana, the gateway to the integrated African market. Let me take this opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, to commend His Royal Majesty, Togbe Afede XIV, for taking Accra to the World Trade Centers Association 15 years ago, and the General Assembly of the WTCA to Accra this year. Over the years, Your Majesty, your dedication to the attainment of the ideals of our nation led you to establish our first independent power plant and several other thriving businesses. The General Assembly 2023 in Accra is yet another feat that demonstrates your commitment to our country and to the continent. I congratulate you and your team for bringing this global gathering of ideas and opportunities to Ghana. We would work with you in concert with other key state actors to ensure that the impact of the General Assembly on our country and the continent is maximized for the benefit of our people. I would also like to acknowledge the initiative launched by the World Trade Centers Association themed Pivot to Africa. This initiative clearly demonstrates the organization's commitment to enhancing investment and trade in Africa. It comes at a time when the continent is experiencing significant economic growth and transformation, presenting immense opportunities for investment and trade. The World Trade Center Association's Pivot to Africa initiative recognizes the enormous potential of the African market and the need to leverage it for mutual benefit. I am pleased to learn that this initiative seeks to focus the organization's resources on Africa, promote investment and trade, and foster partnerships between African businesses and those from other parts of the world. Ghana recognizes the importance of trade and investment in promoting growth and development, and we are committed to working with our African partners to create a vibrant, integrated continent. However, we also recognize that Africa can only achieve its full potential with the support and cooperation of the international community. Ghana is fully committed to supporting this initiative and working with the World Trade Centers Association to enhance African investment and trade. Enhancing Africa's global presence requires a concerted effort by all stakeholders, including governments, businesses, and civil society. We must work together to promote Africa's unique potential, attract foreign investment, and create sustainable partnerships that benefit Africa and our international partners. The theme towards African economic integration and enhanced global presence captures the desires and aspirations of our continent succinctly and reflects the future we see for ourselves as Africans. A future of an Africa that is integrated economically, occupying its rightful place around the table of continents and contributing significantly to the global economy is the future we invite global partnerships to. This vision of a new Africa rhymes with the ideals of the founders of our continent and is congruent with the aspirations of the government of the Republic of Ghana. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is well established that the government of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has unreservedly promoted the agenda of an economically independent Africa, with African countries leveraging our resources and global partnerships to advance the best interest of our people. Our government's commitment to this agenda is unwavering, regardless of our current challenges. As we navigate the new global reality, we must remain committed to free and fair trade and work together to create a level playing field for all. We also continue to invest in innovation and technology to enhance our competitiveness and drive growth. Our government over the last 6 years has set out to build a strong foundation for accelerated growth in the context of the fourth industrial revolution. A fundamental tenet of our development program in Ghana has been our digitalization agenda, which has seen the deployment of high levels of digital technology and innovation to streamline essential public processes and services and remove bottlenecks that have suppressed progress across almost all sectors of our economy. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, whether you intend to participate in the Ghanaian economy as an investor or a trader, I am sure it is important for you to be able to ascertain the identity of individuals you engage in business transactions with or desire to hire. A requirement as simple as this was not possible for several years since our independence, thus stifling progress, for instance, in the financial services sector and many other industries. Our government undertook a massive rollout of the National Identification System to create a single biometric integrated multi-purpose modern national ID system. The national ID card, or the Ghana card as we refer to it, is currently the primary source of identification in the country for conducting almost all transactions and activities from the financial sector to public services. Each citizen or resident has a unique Ghana card number that also serves, for example, as your tax identification number and enables a digital footprint of citizens' interactions across all spheres of life. We've made a great success of the Ghana card in providing unique identity to individuals. We're now thinking beyond this because the case for unique identification for individuals is even more important for unique identification for businesses. Because just as we need the confidence to know who we are dealing with, businesses also need that confidence and trust to know who am I dealing with. And so we've started discussions with the Global Legal Entity Identity Foundation, GLAIF, to provide unique global legal identity to all businesses in Ghana. The Legal Entity Identifier is a unique reference code used across markets and jurisdictions to uniquely identify a legally distinct entity that engages in financial transactions. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an initiative driven by the G20 and the Financial Stability Board. But providing legal identity to our businesses, especially our SMEs, will make it very easy for our companies to participate fully in global economic and financial transactions. And when I looked at the database, I saw that there's simply no country in Africa right now that is part of the legal entity identification scheme. And so if we sit down, we will again be late. And it is for that reason that Ghana has started discussions for us to provide legal, unique identity to all our businesses so that when you interact internationally, everybody knows who you are. And I believe that the AFCFTA should come on board this and let us get legal identity for all businesses across the African continent. And that will make it much easier for transactions within Africa amongst businesses and beyond, because there is a single global legal identity for all businesses. And that's what we should be working towards. So my brother Wamkele, we will talk some more about this, but I think that this is where we should get forward. Because these are some of the micro foundations, because the lack of legal identity affects the poorer countries more than the much richer countries. And so we should take advantage of this opportunity to get it and get it for free, basically, for our businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, beyond provision of unique identity to our population, we also address the issue of financial inclusion. Mobile phone usage is very high across the sub-region and keeps growing faster than anywhere else in the world. In Ghana, there are 40 million active mobile accounts, which is even higher than the country's population. And we saw the opportunity in mobile phone usage growth and popularity and capitalized on this to introduce the mobile money interoperability system, because we realized that not many people had bank accounts, but a lot of people had mobile phones. So we wanted to make the bank account interoperable with the mobile wallet. And this is what we have done in Ghana by building the mobile money interoperability system between bank accounts and mobile wallets. By doing this, it has enabled anyone with a mobile money account to be included in the financial sector. Between 2016 and 2020, the percentage of adults with access to financial services through a traditional bank account increased from 30%, and today, with mobile money interoperability, we are at 90%. And by doing this, because what we essentially have done is bring fintechs, banks, and telcos onto one platform. So you have complete interoperability across the space, and this has allowed Ghana to become the #1 country in Africa in terms of access to financial inclusion. Because anybody can open a bank account now very easily because of this integration. All you need is your national ID card number and a mobile phone. You dial a USSD code, put in the national ID card number, because there, all the KYC a bank needs on you is already there. So immediately you put that number in at the USSD code, your bank account is opened instantaneously. And that is very, very easy for anybody to do. So it's now so easy for us to do so. We've also introduced a universal QR code payments platform, which allows customers to pay directly from a bank account or a mobile wallet to a merchant from a mobile phone. And the merchants, because of the QR code, no longer need point-of-sale devices, which can be quite expensive for them. We've also introduced the digital addressing system. We live with a problem which many businesses live with. Where do you locate people? If you don't have a functional address system, you cannot have a functional economy. We decided to go digital and leverage GPS technology, and today we've rolled out a digital property addressing system in Ghana, the first country in Africa to do so. So every piece of land or water in Ghana has a digital address. And so that has solved the problem of addressing in Ghana and has really boomed e-commerce, because it's very easy to locate any place in Ghana. Once I give you the digital address and you put it in, the sat-nav or whatever will take you straight there. So, and this is very good for business, and we are really seeing a lot happen. One of the things that I will tell you, at the end of 2016, only 4% of adults had a tax identification number. 4%. And you can therefore see the difficulty of raising taxes. If you don't even have, even 10% of your population there, you can identify as having. So we decided to make the national ID card the tax identification number. And immediately we did that, the proportion of adults with tax identification numbers increased from 4% to 86% in one go. From 4% to 86%. And we've also moved on to to digitize the provision of government services, so you can, whether it's driver's license, clearing goods at the port, whether it's getting a passport or applying for business registration and so on, we can now do everything online. And so you don't have to have interface with human beings that will have to charge you bribes or whatever to facilitate. So our view is that the problem is with the human beings, it's not with the system. So build a system and let, the computer never asked anybody for a bribe. So let everybody do the transactions online, and you will reduce the cost of doing business. And that is basically what we have done. Ladies and gentlemen, we have also moved on, as Your Excellency Wamkele Mene was saying, that this year, generally last year, I had the honor to launch the Pan-African Payments and Settlement System. Actually, I think it was in this very building, this very place that we did it, which connects African banks, payment systems, and financial intermediaries to facilitate instant and secure cross-border payments and settlements across the continent. PAPS addresses an age-old challenge of cross-border payments across Africa and provides critical infrastructure to boost intra-Africa trade and economic integration. At the launch of PAPS, I said, and I want to reiterate, that PAPS, the Pan-African Payments and Settlement System, is an African solution to an African problem, and the most practical and most important achievement in payment systems integration on the African continent. I'm happy to note that the leading partner for the development of PAPS, the Afri-Exim Bank, is also a key partner for the 53rd General Assembly of the World Trade Centers Association, and we thank them for that. The government of His Excellency, the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has also invested particularly in areas of transport and power to create a supportive environment for industrialization and growth. Our railway master plan is developing a massive rail infrastructure that will ensure easy transportation of goods across the country. And I'm reliably informed that as part of the program of the General Assembly, you will have the opportunity to embark on field or industrial visits, and I am sure you will have the chance to see firsthand the available infrastructure to support your economic objectives in Ghana. Our government has also invested heavily to ensure adequate human capital is available to support economic growth. The free senior high school policy that we have implemented ensures that the lack of financial wherewithal is no longer a reason for young people, especially girls, not to receive senior high school education. We introduced the free senior high school policy in 2017. At that time, the total enrollment in senior high schools was 800,000 boys and girls in 2017. We brought in free senior high school education, and in 6 years, we've moved from 800,000 enrollment to 1.4 million boys and girls. That's a 75% increase. Now, without this, many of the boys and girls, especially the girls, would have been sitting at home. And we would have paid a price much later on, much higher. But with this, and what is even more remarkable, because there was no gender parity before we brought in this policy. But now, I'm happy to say there is gender parity at the senior high school level between boys and girls. And we are providing similar for technical and vocational education to close the skills gap. Ladies and gentlemen, as I've already indicated, Ghana welcomes partnerships. Ghana is also committed to sustainable development, and we recognize the importance of promoting environmentally friendly practices in our industries. We have initiated several programs to reduce carbon emissions, promote renewable energy, and protect our natural resources. I encourage you all to think along with us to ensure sustainability is not relegated to the background in favor of a single focus on profit-seeking. I see that executives from the Ghana Investment Promotion Center are scheduled to address this gathering later today, and I'm sure they will do an excellent job of further highlighting the unique advantages of Ghana as a fulcrum for your aspirations in Africa. Therefore, I want to refrain from preempting their speech. Let me therefore conclude by emphasizing that Africa is open for business, and we are committed to creating a more integrated, dynamic, and prosperous continent. Ghana is proud to be at the forefront of these efforts, and we look forward to working with our partners worldwide to create a more equitable and sustainable future for all. For anybody who has any doubt about the future of Africa, that we will take our rightful place in this global world, all we tell them is that it is possible. Africa is going to take its rightful place. It is possible. Thank you very much for your attention.
Vice President of our Republic, His Excellency Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. And he speaks from his heart of things he has tried, tested, and has known to be true. Please, another round of applause. We thank you ever so much, Your Excellency the Vice President, for these warm thoughts. They've given us enough fodder for the next plenaries that will be sub-themes that feed into the overarching theme. Clearly, a picture of potential optimism, growth, prosperity has been painted with a healthy dose of imperatives, injunctions, and admonitions. This is how we bring the formal opening ceremony, I beg your pardon, to a close. Allow me now the pleasure of just reading a few announcements. Okay, let me just defer the announcements. We'll do that later. For now, ladies and gentlemen, I believe all that needs to be said has been said. All that needs to be done has been done. Our future, Africa is on the rise. Africa is rising. This is our time. And ignore Africa at your own peril. I pray that these words will linger in our hearts and ginger us to do our best to develop this new frontier, Africa, the home of humanity. To this end, I ask that we rise and agree together as we pray for this continent, starting right here with Ghana, our beloved motherland. This is To Africa, the New Frontier. A round of applause. Humbly, I ask that you please be seated briefly. Your Excellency, the Vice President, humbly I ask that you indulge us 3 very short photo sessions. I humbly request you in the presence of our board chair, Your Excellency, the Secretary General of the AFCFTA, together with our gracious hosts, Your Royal Majesty Togbi Afede, Joining the official party, it's my pleasure to invite the Minister for Industrialization and Trade of the Republic of Namibia, the Honorable Lucia Lipumbu. I shall humbly invite all heads of mission, all high commissioners and ambassadors of African and non-African nations, please join. The last but one photograph will be with the CEO of the Namibian Investment Promotion and Development Board, together with the Deputy CEO of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center. And making their way up the days, let me invite the board and directors of the World Trade Center Association. Please make your way up. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we shall all be seated briefly as this official party take leave of us first to go and formally open the fair and exhibitions. We shall all be led out in sections. Let's please be seated. Members of the press, please take your place outside. Thank you. Humbly, Your Excellencies, let me invite you to the exhibition area. Let's all please be seated. Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please lend me your attention for a few announcements. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention for a few announcements? Before we move to the next part of the program,
This is the mayor saying the Georgia. What you know, Africans built Savannah, yes. Built Georgia. Right. We want to help build Africa. And the former mayor, she's representative.
Good to meet you. Madam Mayor. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, of course. Yes, of course.
Okay. All right, that's fine, bro.
My colleague right there will, he will also use your phone. Yeah.
Okay.
Come closer.
And I'm in Atlanta, 3 months out here in Atlanta.
And then the rest of the time you are in. I see.
Yes. That's how formal it is. She's state representative. Took your comments to heart.
That's right. Fantastic. I would be very happy to come. No, not at all.
I want to give you gifts to me.
Okay.
That works.
Very well. Very well. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm good to see you. Thank you. I don't know your way.
I want to sing her praise. She was one who helped us at the airport. And she was so positive about this event and that she was here. So, good for you. Oh, you're kidding. She represents your airport. She paid me $10. She paid me $10.
Leon. Leon, can you hear me? Leon, are you there?
So,
Last group is over here.
Delaware.
Oh, and the best thing. You hear about the factions giving, you follow factions Dominion project. It's in Delaware. It's
Okay, it's fine.
that's how much we communicate. Absolutely.
I've been a mess.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Excellency.